Okay, that's the meeting now recording. So I will take the sedent of the Community and Enterprise Resources Committee on the 4th of October 2022. I can see that we have present councillors Anderson, Barker, Brogan and Brown. Councillor Carmichael? Oh, I can see that you are participating remotely. Also present are councillors Chalmers, Corbett, Cowan and Cowie. I have apologies from Councillor Convery, but I have Councillor Falconer in attendance as a substitute. Councillor Devlin is also present, as is Councillor Dewar. Councillor Fagan? No. Councillor Ferguson-Miller? Oh, I can see that you are present. Councillor Gowland is present. Councillor Horn is also present, as is Councillor Johnson-Dempsey. Councillor Lennon? No. Also present are Councillors Lockhart, MacDonald, McCallan, McCreary, McLachlan, Nugent, Toner and Councillor Watson. We also have a number of officers in attendance today, and with that I'll pass you back to the Chair to commence today's business. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can apologise to some degree for the hotness of the room. It's really quite warm in here today, isn't it? I hope it doesn't... happily, I think we're migrating to the committee room next time round, so hopefully that'll be a little bit better. Item 1, declaration of interest. Have anybody got any declarations of interest to offer? Don't think so. No. Okay. Item 2, minutes of the previous meeting. That's the meeting of the 9th of August, pages 5 to 18 of your agenda papers. First of all, can I move the minutes of that meeting as a correct record?
I'll second it.
Thanks. Any observations on the minutes? No. Thank you. Item 3 is the revenue budget. The monitoring report for 2022-23, pages 19 to 28. Could I ask Louise Harvey to speak to that report, please?
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon. This is the second report presented to committee for the financial year 22-23 and sets out information on the New Year revenue budget position covering the period 1st of April through to the 12th of August 2022, which is period 5 of our financial year. The report reflects the new senior management and service structure for community and enterprise as outlined at the last committee by the Executive Director. Paragraph 5 outlines the main financial implications for the resource as at the 12th of August, with a minor overspend of £50,000 against the phase budget being reported. Variance explanations for each of the service areas are detailed in appendices B through to F where appropriate. In terms of the core budget, there is an overspend as outlined, and this reflects the net position for the resource, including underspends within employee costs and food costs, which is offset by an under-recovery in income for both our school meals and our hospitality services, an overspend in relation to the cost of transport and electric vehicles, as well as an over-recovery of income for our planning building standards applications. Budget variants are proposed as set out at the bottom of Appendix B to F in the normal way, and these reflects updates to Community and Enterprises budget from the period the 21st of May, which is when we last reported, through to the 12th of August. And these cover a few main areas: budget variants and realignments to reflect how we deliver our services across most of our service areas, transfers of budget for fuel, for our COVID-funded employee costs, for procurement savings and expenditure commitments in several areas, for capital financed from revenue and some strategic investment funding to capital as well. They also reflect the creation of budget to reflect external income, again for a few projects outlined within the budget environment explanations: air quality, planning gain, Straven Cars, Hamilton Palace grounds and the Levelling Up Fund. So if I can refer committee back to paragraph 2, the committee is asked to approve the following recommendations: that an overspend of £50,000 as at the 12th of August as detailed in Appendix A of the report be noted, and that the proposed budget variants as detailed in Appendix B through to F be approved. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Louise. There's obviously ongoing issues with regard to the recruitment aspects, which I think are relevant there. Questions? John Anderson, please.
Thanks, Chair. I'm just wondering, would traditionally and normally just use the underspends in other parts of the resource budget to fund overspends? And if you look at employee costs, it's 1.76 million underspend, and yet we're transferring from reserves in Environment B. Why do we need to transfer from reserves if we've got this underspend elsewhere within the resource? Thanks.
Louise?
Thank you. So the commitment within reserves is to meet expenditure plans that we have mostly from 21-22 that we had put forward for that main purpose, and it really reflects the timing at the financial year end. But you'll notice here, Councillor Anderson, we are reporting the full position for the resource, so we are balancing our underspends within employee costs, one of the ones you've mentioned, with some of our other expenditure pressures, mostly in the areas of transport and our electric vehicles. So we are looking at the overall balanced position for the resource and showing a net overspend of 50,000.
Sure.
So are you saying this overspend is from last year, not this year? That it didn't show in last year's budget?
No, I'm saying the expenditure commitments that we've drawn from reserves was expenditure we've got in this year. Funding was put aside to cover that from last year. So some of the areas that you're referring to, I think, are the Shatler Rock slopes and the Food Development Officer commitment. So it's expenditures we've got in this year, but we had aligned the funding from last financial year to pay for that. That has then got the net effect on this year's revenue budget, and the 50,000 is from the existing pressures in this year's resource budget.
Okay, any further questions? Don't think so. Thank you very much for that. Can we then move to item, sorry, can I move the report? And ask for a second, please, if I may.
Second.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 4, which is the capital budget, 22-23, pages 29 to 32. In this instance, Lorraine O'Hagan, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Committee. This is the second Capital Budget Monitoring Report of the current financial year and reflects the budget and spend position to the 12th of August, which is our accounting period 5. Section 3 of your report provides a background to the programme and advises that the budget reported to the last committee was 64.423 million, and since then we've had adjustments approved by Executive Committee, a total net increase of £117,000, and those are detailed in Appendix A, and they take your revised budget for the year to 64.540. Section 5 then details the capital programme update for the current year, and a breakdown, as I said, is in Appendix A of your report. So Section 5.1 notes the total capital programme for the year being the 64.540 million pounds, and it also notes the anticipated spend to date of 6.225 million, with actual spend at the 12th of August amounting to 6.505 million. So that's a variance of £280,000 ahead of profile. It mainly reflects the timing of spend on 2 projects within the overall resource programme, and that's the new Jackton Primary School project, which is included within the Glasgow City Region City Deal programme, and also the Hamilton Palace Grounds Play Area project, which is now nearing completion. I'd be looking then to refer committee back to the recommendation section 2 of your report, and that the budget for the resource of 64.540 million and also spend to the 12th of August of 6.505 million is noted. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks very much, Lorraine. Questions again? John Anderson, please.
Thanks, Chair. Page 34, 4.4, discipline, grievance and dignity at work. There's been a big jump in this from, I think, 6 to 19, 13 of an increase. Is there an explanation for this?
I think you're jumping reports, John. If I'm yeah, we're not quite onto that one yet.
Oh, sorry.
That's the next one. This is the capital budget we're talking about here. Yeah. Any questions on the capital budget? No. Can I therefore move the report?
I'll second it.
Thanks very much indeed. And we'll give you a moment of glory in a minute, John, if we may. Moving on to item 5, which is the Workforce Monitoring Report for June and July 2022. Pages 33 to 40. Can I invite Elaine Maxwell to speak to this report, please, Elaine?
Thank you, Chair. This is a standard workforce monitoring report which is prepared by personnel, and the purpose of the report is to provide committee with an update on the employment information for the resource for the period June and July of this year. Members will note at section 4.1 the resource absence statistics, and you will see that the resource absence figure for July this year was 5.6%, and that did represent a decrease of 1.1% when we were comparing to the previous month. Looking at July 2021, the figure, although has increased by 0.7%, and the July 22 figure still remains 1% higher than the council-wide figure. Members will note that musculoskeletal and respiratory still remain the two top reasons for absence within the resource. When we look at our absence figures for July and look at the projected annual average for the resource for 22-23, it's projected as 7.4% absence percentage compared to a council-wide average of 6.1%. Just to note that managers do continue to follow the procedures outlined in our maximising attendance policy to support employees to remain at work and return to work after absence, and our personnel teams continue to support them. You'll also see that the absence information contained within the section includes absences as a result of COVID, and you know that we've been reporting this ongoing for some time. At the point of this report being produced, the Council's absence levels were 4.8%, with 0.5% relating to COVID absence. Moving on to section 4.2, this details the occupational health information, which is found in Appendix 2, and you will see that there are 178 occupational health referrals which were made during that period, which was down 8 when we look at the same period of last year, and that would be reflective of the slight decrease in the absence percentage across the same time. Section 4.3 goes on to note the accidents and incident statistics for the resource, and you will see that there was 22 recorded within the resource for this period. And again, the monitoring of incidents and reports continues with our health and safety team. Section 4.4 details the employee relations activity, so the disciplines, grievance and dignity at work. And you will see that this shows that there were 19 disciplinary hearings held and that there was no grievance, dignity at work or appeal hearings during that time. Members should note that employee relations activity is a result of employee actions or behaviours, and we react to that. So the personnel team work closely with managers to ensure the Council's policies and procedures are being followed in these cases. And again, given the size and makeup of the resource, it's not unusual to see that level of activity across. Moving on to section 4.5, looking at our analysis of leavers. Again, that's detailed in Appendix 2, and there were 22 leavers who were eligible for an exit interview, with 4 being carried out. And again, just to note that that process is voluntary, but we do encourage that. 4.7 details that 122 employees with the noted FTE left the resource, and that managers have indicated that 118 posts are being replaced and 4 posts ended due to the end of a fixed term contract. Section 5 details the staffing watch information, and that's in comparison to the June figures in comparison to March of this year, and there was an increase, and that will be primarily due to the grounds seasonal appointments. So if I could refer committee back to section 2 within the report and ask committee to approve the recommendation to note the employment information for June and July 22. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Elaine. I draw members' attention to item 6, which we're going to come on to shortly, which is the workforce planning stuff. There's quite a lot of issues that arise out of some of these figures about absence rates, about recruitment problems and things of that kind, which I think are perhaps more easily dealt with in the next report. However, any questions on that one? And I think we have to come back for John's words of wisdom on this one, don't we? Councillor Anderson.
Thanks, Chair. Apologies for being ahead of myself. It was just on the 4.4. An increase of 13 disciplinary hearings compared, well, taken up to 19. Is there any particular reason why this has jumped so high?
Elaine?
I think, as I'd outlined when I was presenting the case, Councillor Anderson, disciplinary hearings are only scheduled when there is activity that merits that, and it is about following our policies and procedures. So if there are behaviours or instances that have occurred and there's a fact-finding process completed, then there would be a resulting disciplinary hearing. So there isn't any specific one reason why it would be increased. You know, we just need to make sure that we're following our policies and procedures to make sure that we're dealing with all our employees appropriately in terms of the policies and procedures. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to go into specifics of why, you know, there would be specific cases, you know, but it would be as a result of behaviours or actions of employees in terms of misconduct that would merit a disciplinary hearing. So there's quite a clear process that we follow in terms of our discipline and grievance procedures, Councillor Anderson.
I guess the key point there is we're not getting any kind of trends out of these things, which we should be keeping an eye on, that you know, spring out of the figures sort of thing. Is that anything?
Yeah, I mean, we have our personnel team that makes sure that, you know, these cases are appropriate in terms of following the correct actions. So if there was any particular concerns, I certainly would be raising that through the senior management team.
Sorry, and David Booth.
Thanks very much, Chair. It was just to highlight as well this year our activity levels were much higher than they would have been last year in terms of we were in a COVID environment last year, so we would expect more activity in a workforce the size that we've got, that there would be that number of disciplinary hearings is probably more reflective of a normal operating position within the resource. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Barker, Ralph.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to make a point in accident statistics, page 38, that near-miss reporting is very low, which suggests under-reporting for near-misses. You would normally expect more near-miss incidents than actual accident incidents. The purpose of this is to prevent near-misses getting to be real accident statistics. So if we could just make that point within the committee, but perhaps out with the committee, somebody could explain, you know, the basis of near-miss reporting, please. Thank you.
David?
Yep, thanks very much, Chair. Yeah, what I can provide is an analysis of the difference of how they're reported, Councillor Barker, if that's of use. Thanks.
It sounds a very sort of valid point. I mean, I just wonder if it is worth having a look at that in terms of what managers are instructed to do and things like that to make sure we are keeping on top of these kind of things, because near misses obviously could be nasty hits as opposed to near misses if you're not careful, couldn't they? Thank you. Can I move, if there's no further questions, can I move the approval of item 5? And
I'll second it.
thank you very much. Item 6, I mentioned before, this is the Community and Enterprise Resources Workforce Plan, 2022 to 25, pages 41 to 50. And I think it's looking a bit more detailed, some of the issues that emerge out of these reports on a longer term basis. Can I invite Elaine Maxwell again to speak to that?
Thank you, Chair. And again, members may be familiar in terms of the format of this report because it's come to the previous committees of different resources so far this year. So the purpose of this report, as you said, is to present the Community and Enterprise Resources Workforce Plan for 2022 to 2025 and highlight the key strategic actions. The workforce strategy for the Council was presented to an exec committee in 2016, and following this, each resource developed workforce plans to cover the period 2017 to 2022. And each resource has now reviewed their plans in line with the workforce planning cycle to cover the period 22 to 25. Section 4 of the report outlines the workforce planning toolkit, and the workforce plans were developed using the toolkit, which there were 4 stages in that process. Each resource had to look at internal and external drivers in line with the resource plans and look at how this links to the service delivery and the required workforce. The next stage was looking at our workforce data, the profile and trends and projections of our future requirements. And there was 2 stages then to inform the objectives of the plan and what the plan will achieve. The resource management team, along with myself, the HR business manager, worked together to identify the actions required to address these challenges and identify any actions to reduce the risk to service impact. Section 5 of the report outlines the workforce plan overview, and you will see that the workforce plan for the resource is attached in Appendix 1. For community and enterprise resources, there were key themes for the workforce planning that were identified, and these covered the demographic of the workforce and the impact of succession planning, the ability to recruit and retain employees in key frontline and professional areas, as well as the development of our current workforce to ensure that we're meeting skills to deliver in our key strategic areas, along with maintaining employee wellbeing and resilience. We then had to look at the actions required to address the challenges, and these are detailed in section 5.3 of the report, and that is about us looking at how we recruit, so a revised recruitment practice to attract and retain employees. I'm looking and branching out in something that we've already started doing in terms of a graduate apprenticeship approach to recruitment to make sure that we're bringing the skills that we require in at an earlier stage. Establishing key links with schools and colleges, again, to encourage those to consider roles working within the council that they may not understand what we actually do, you know, and the types of roles that are available. And again, encourage that we've already started some of this activity. Establishing methods to grow our own talent and future-proof our workforce, so looking at the skills that we have within our own workforce and where we can grow on that. Along with reviewing our working practices and delivering our business delivery models, and looking at optimising the efficiency of our existing workforce. And again, I think underpinning of all this, we need to maintain our employee health and wellbeing to ensure that that our workforce is feeling valued and supported. The themes that are coming through for community and enterprise resources certainly aligns with the general common themes from all resources in terms of the action plans, and these are the increased demand against a backdrop of a reduced workforce pool, which is not just an issue for South Lanarkshire Council but an issue across a number of authorities and a national issue. The demographic challenges that we're facing in terms of our increased turnover, our employees that are retiring earlier than we would expect, along with our flexible retirement numbers increasing, and then we have to look at our succession planning as well as the employee wellbeing. Moving on to section 6, we've got to then look at what were the risk implications, and this identifies the actions identified to assist the resource to achieve the right people with the right skills to deliver the service. However, as I said, there are risks if these actions cannot be delivered, which would incur a reduced workforce supply in terms of a risk to delivering actions identified in. So we have to look at adapting our services to deliver within the workforce that's available. The ability to meet our service requirements, given the time taken to train, develop our employees to achieve the required skills mix, given the complexity of skill sets required across the different roles. And I appreciate, obviously, within community and enterprise resources, the skill set is wide in terms of the roles that we attract. And it is about completing recruitment drives across services and sectors, which could impact on staffing levels in specific areas. Section 7 outlines the action plan, which we have to monitor through the resource management team as the arrangements on the national initiatives emerge and deal with any significant changes. And these will be reported through this corporate management team. So in that, I would refer committee back to section 2 and ask the recommendations that the content of the report be noted and the community and enterprise resources workforce plan be approved. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Elaine. I think, if I may say so, this is one of the more important reports we'll receive before this committee, particularly against the background of the resource recruitment issues we're having. And as Elaine touched on, it's clearly got implications not just for this resource, but across the council, indeed across Scotland more generally. I think there's a number of issues emerge from it, which I think we want to see going forward. Can I ask one small thing? Right at the end, if I may, on page 48, we talk about optimising the efficiency of the workforce. Now, that's clearly one side of the issue. Are we having a look in that respect at maybe processes and things we don't need to do, that don't actually go anywhere, just in terms of the efficiency of what we're actually doing? You sometimes come across bits and pieces which don't add much to the sum of human knowledge, if you like, and could perhaps be done in either a different or shorter way. Is that an aspect of that? David?
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. Yeah, the short answer is yes. That is an area that we're actively looking at just now, about whether we are undertaking activities which may have been relevant a number of years ago but are no longer relevant, and the way by which we go about our work to try and drive through more efficient methods of delivering services. Thanks.
The other thing I wanted to ask about, if I might, was the kind of monitoring arrangements. I do appreciate that it's coming to the corporate management team. Are there arrangements for this to come back in any shape in terms of, I don't know, 6 monthly or something like that to this committee to see how it's getting along, any issues that are emerging, etc.? Is that a valid point? David, yes, thank you.
Yep, thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, so we will be monitoring this on a regular basis, and there's no problem at all with coming back and giving the committee an update on progress at a regular point.
Yeah, okay, we'll maybe talk the detail of that. Thank you. Any other questions on this one? It's quite an important report, as I say. No questions? Can I then move the report?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. And can we move on to item 7? Item 7 is the Economic Development Sphere Additional Officers, pages 51 to 54. And back to David Booth again on this one, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. So this is additional officers in terms of economic development. The purpose of the report is to seek approval to make 4 full-time equivalent existing temporary economic development officers permanent, and to make 1 full-time equivalent existing temporary post of marketing and events assistant seconded to the Supplier Development Programme permanent. In terms of background, the importance of the Council's Economic Development Service has been underlined during recent economic shocks, and economic transformation is fundamental to achieving the ambitions both of the Council and of the Scottish Government's objective of creating a more successful country. Our new economic development strategy has been drafted and takes account of the rapidly changing economy at international, national and local levels, and a number of temporary posts have been created to focus on economic development and recovery, and specifically on business engagement, key sector development and the support of inward investment. Currently, officers on temporary contracts have been recruited to deliver on priority key sectors of tourism, food and drink, social enterprise and inward investment, and have made valuable contributions to engaging and supporting businesses and liaising with partner agencies. There is currently further funding available to retain these officer posts, and it is expected to continue to be the position with the emergence of the Levelling Up and UK Prosperity funding through to April 2025 and beyond. By making these employees permanent, we will provide employment security for those on temporary contracts and assist the workforce in planning for anticipated turnover, including age retirements. In terms of the marketing post and supplier development programme, the supplier development programme is an initiative which aims to help small and medium enterprises improve their performance in winning contracts with public sector organisations. And it is hosted by South Lanarkshire Council and has been since 2014. The programme runs and is funded by the 32 local authorities through member subscriptions, contribution from new members, and through income generated through events and through Scottish Government contributions. In terms of the marketing and events assessment, this employee is responsible for assisting the delivery of the training, workshops, webinars and increased programme of Meet the Buyer events and exhibitions for the Supplier Development Programme. In terms of this particular post, the annual Scottish Government funding of £24,000 is available to the Supplier Development Programme to fund the post and to support the delivery of these activities. So turning to section 6 and the financial implications, the proposed economic development staffing requirements, which are set out in section 5, in the table in section 5, have a cost of up to £225,000. This would be funded from existing strategic investment funding and Business Loan Scotland funding already approved through to 24-25, and in future years via new expected sources of funding through including Levelling Up Fund and the UK Prosperity Fund. The proposed Supplier Development Programme staffing requirements have an annual cost of up to £40,000 per year. And the Scottish Government funding for the Supplier Development Project supports this activity in part, and the remaining cost would be managed through the existing Supplier Development Programme funding streams in line with the current practice. There are no issues in terms of the section 7 through to 9, so I'll return to recommendations, and the committee is asked to approve the following recommendations: that the contents of the report are noted, that the approval of converting 4 full-time equivalent temporary economic development officers at grade 3 level 2 to 8 and economic development establishment as detailed in section 5 of the report be made permanent, and that the committee approves 1 full-time equivalent temporary post of marketing and events assistant on grade 2 level 1 to 4, seconded to the supply development programme as detailed in sections 5 of the report be made permanent. Thank you.
Thanks very much, David. This is quite an important report as well. I mean, the administration, as indeed any administration, are keen on sharpening up as much as we can the economic development portfolio, and the staff resources behind that are extremely important. I've had the opportunity to meet some of the staff involved in this particular area, and I think that we've got some quite impressive employees in post. So I'm personally very keen on this particular report. Any questions? I see we've got Ian McCallan. Ian.
Yep. Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me, Chair?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Chairman, I'm very pleased to see the permanent appointment of these additional officers. As you referred to, economic development is absolutely core to the function of local authorities and central to the well-being of our communities. The previous administration made significant progress in this area, and I hope this will continue going forward, perhaps with the appointment of additional staff in the future. Can I ask officers whether that is looked at in the longer-term strategy?
David?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor McCallan. Again, the short answer to that is yes, it is something that we're looking at as we have developed our new strategic economic strategy. We will be looking at how to best resource that and to look at the additional opportunities we have for external funding to come in and support our economic activities. So areas like the Levelling Up Fund and UK Prosperity Fund. And through that, we may have the opportunity for additional economic development posts. So we'll look at that at the moment, but obviously it will need to financially stack up as well, but it is an area of interest to us at the moment. Thank you.
Okay.
Happy with that? Thank you, Ian. Councillor Gowland, Ross.
Yes, thank you for that very accurate report. I think it's great to see that we have officers in the council focused on levelling up and community wealth building. Can I ask which areas of South Lanarkshire that these officers will be focused on? Do we have that information at this moment in time, just in terms of which ward or which type of, in terms of the geography involved?
That's a bit more general there. David?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. These employees will cover the full. It's a full geographical area, South Lanarkshire for those. So, what they cover in terms of sectorial, it's more across sectors rather than across geography. So, one of the officers will cover tourism. One officer will cover food and drink. One officer will cover the development of social enterprises, and the other officer will cover inward investment. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can I move approval then of the report, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. And can I move on to item 8, which is the investment fund projects, temporary employees, pages 55 to 58, and ask Kevin Carr to speak, please.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to seek approval to temporarily increase the waste services establishment by 2.5 FTE for a period of 23 months. This proposal is on the back of previous approval for investment fund projects, 2 investment fund projects for the waste service. The first one recognising that there are around 5,000 properties in rural locations that aren't currently in the Burgundy bin system, and that project is aiming to roll out 5,000 hot composters on request and free of charge. And this is about making permanent an establishment for half FTE for a driver for delivery of the hot composters. The second project, again, is focused on our flatted properties. Around 30% of our households in South Lanarkshire are flatted properties, and the current recycling system within them is a commingled system where it's paper, card and cans, bottles and glass. And again, that recognises that we've been unable to maximise our recycling levels from that commingling process. And what we're aiming to do with that project is separate the paper and card. And this proposal's to create 2 temporary waste awareness officers to make sure that we can communicate that change to households effectively. So as I said, this paper's on the back of previous approval for the investment fund projects, and the recommendation is to seek approval to temporarily increase the waste services establishment by 2.5 FTE for 23 months. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions on that? Again, Councillor McCallan, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Referring to paragraph 3.2, as a councillor covering a predominantly rural area where frustratingly many residents don't have access to good waste collection service, the availability of hot composters is clearly a significant step forward. Chair, perhaps Officer could provide us with a possible timescale for delivery of these hot composters to allow me to update my constituents.
David, I hope they come with some instructions by the sounds of it. Sorry, Kevin.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor McCallum. Yeah, we've actually just completed the tender process for the composters themselves, so that was just completed at the end of last month. So really, once we get approval for the post, we go through the recruitment process. Again, it will need to be heavily trailed with a communication process using the waste awareness officers to make sure that residents are aware of the availability of the composters and, as Chair's rightly recognised, how they're used. So I'm hoping, you know, by the turn of the year that we'll certainly be in full sway with the communication process by rollout for the early new year.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Anderson.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, I welcome anything that actually helps increase our recycling record. I'm not quite sure this is going to do it. By what we're doing now is we're going to say to a third approximately of our residents, you can no longer recycle your glass, your cans or tins or plastic. So what are we going to do for that third of the population? Other areas in Scotland have been to have municipal recycling, where you can recycle your glass. Sometimes it's even by colour. We don't have anything like that in South Lanarkshire. And I've got a couple other points. I'm just wondering, what is our rejection rate from the flatted areas when it gets to the recycling centre? And does this impact on any contract that we currently have with the recycle now? And will our bins be able to cope with the extra load, given the capacity that will just be the normal bin that picks it up from the houses and the flats? Or will we need to look at rerouting or putting in another service to collect this? Because there is a limit, A, with space, and B, with tonnage that they can actually collect. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Kevin, can you say something about that? I think particularly also about the ongoing issue of tenemental recycling, which is a big biggie, as John has rightly said.
Yep, thank you, Chair. No, you're absolutely right. SEPA published the latest national data last week, and you can see from that that there's still big challenges in recycling levels across Scotland, particularly the urban authorities and authorities like ourselves that are heavily flatted, where recycling levels, if we're being honest, haven't greatly changed in the last decade. So the challenges in infrastructure and communication and behaviours change are still there, and I think we need to recognise that. I think the reason for the proposal for the investment fund projects was the difference between maximising the opportunities to recycle and maximising the recycling that we get at the other end. So we're not giving up on those waste streams. We're just saying that actually they're so heavily contaminated, we think there's a better way of maximising our recycling level, and that's focusing on particular waste streams. It also makes it an easier message to sell across South Lanarkshire because it now standardises the bin system across all households. And again, that's an easier communication message. We have an opt-in service in South Lanarkshire as well. So if those households that now feel that they want to opt into the glass and can recycling service, they can still request a grey bin if they have space for it and if they're able to bring it out, present the bin themselves. So that option's still there. And your third point about contracts, it doesn't affect any of our current contracts. We don't have a minimum tonnage guarantee with any of our contractors at the moment. so it won't impact on that. And your fourth point around, remind me, your fourth collection process. No, it's a fair comment, and we'll be looking at rerouting to accommodate that, because obviously we'll need different routes and perhaps different vehicles as well. But that will be looked at as part of the project.
It does strike me as one of the aspects of this that the variance of the contamination rate between different buildings is quite substantial. I can think of particular issues in my own ward, which Councillor Cowie and I and others have been involved in, where you've got quite significant issues about everything surrounding bins, if you like. I'm sure that's the case in other people's wards too. But you've got other areas where the thing works quite well. And I hope we're keeping some eye on this, Kevin, are we, in terms of the ability to, where things are working well, can we build on what we've got as opposed to, trying to go backwards a bit? Yes, I think.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Absolutely. Recycling is not just about the infrastructure we provide, it's the behaviour change. It's about making sure people are using and maximising their opportunities to dispose of their waste appropriately. So absolutely, we have a waste awareness team within the waste service. We already have a permanent establishment for that, and there'll be a really big focus going forward in making sure we're communicating properly with residents.
Thank you very much. Kenny McCreary, Councillor McCreary.
Chair, I probably should have Googled this before I came on today, but I didn't. So can you just maybe explain, Kevin, what a hot composter is and how it works? And would the resident be required to do some kind of training for it, or is it quite obvious? Thanks.
Hey, Kevin.
I wish I could answer that. Thanks for the question. I don't particularly know. I'm told it's very straightforward, and you are effectively just putting your food waste into it, and it composts almost like a normal composter that you can imagine for garden waste, just be a different anaerobic process. But we can certainly provide that information, and we'll certainly be doing that for residents as well as we open up the process and the project.
I suspect that was a question a number of people wanted to ask, Kenny, so thank you for that. Councillor Watson.
Yeah. So it sounds like you don't have to fire it up then. It's not like a barbecue, for example. So thanks for that. Thanks for the answer, Kevin.
Councillor Watson.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chair. Come back to the flatted properties. I'm not convinced we're sending out the right message here. And if I'm reading this right, and what I'm hearing is that basically the cans and bottles, etc., beginning with the co-contaminants, i.e. the green and the general waste bin. Does that go straight to landfill? And I think, and I accept there's issues with flatted properties, but I remain to be convinced that this is the direction that we should be going in all honesty.
Kevin, can you give a bit of further response on that and perhaps give some idea of your thinking going forward on the tenemental properties, because that's, I think, quite an important aspect of it.
No, thank you, Chair. I think it's a fair comment, and I think I said earlier, it's not about us giving up in recycling and flatted properties. It's recognising that we're in a space where we think we're not maximising the recycling that we're getting out at the other end, and focusing on a more simplistic message to try and do that. As I said, there's still an opt-in service for those properties that can accommodate a grey bin outside and they can present it, so households will still be able to participate in that process. But again, going forward, part of the whole waste awareness thing is about making sure that residents are able to dispose of their waste appropriately. And I keep saying it's a bit of a hearts and minds exercise, because we can provide as much infrastructure as possible or within parameters, but if people aren't using them appropriately, then we struggle to get the recycling out the other side. Hope that answers your question.
David?
Can you maybe explain the opt-in option and how that would work? Thanks.
I think that's a service that's already available in South Lanarkshire. Again, if a flatted property, if you have the space for the grey bin and it's not suitable for all flats, I think we would need to recognise that. But if you have space for the grey bin, you can request the grey bin and you can participate in recycling the glass and cans and bottles, as long as you can present it to the curb for collection. So that system's already in place, and again, as we roll this out, we'll make sure that residents are aware that it's also available.
I think that's quite an important point. I mean, for what it's worth, I've had dealings with this in a particular tenement in my own ward where there wasn't the facility for cans and things in the first place, and where the people opted into the thing. So it has been done in the past. But I think we need to make people aware of it in an effective sort of way as well. Councillor Cowan, Andrea.
Hi, thanks, Chair. I just wondered if Kevin could tell me why we're prioritising paper and cardboard over cans, glass, tins and plastic. I would have thought, just from my own recycling, that there would be less paper and cardboard and more of the other. So I'm just wondering why the decision to go with one over the other. Thank you.
Kevin.
So, thank you, Chair. Thanks for the question. I would imagine it's because it's less risk of contamination. I wasn't involved in putting together the projects, but my suspicion would be that it would be to maximise the recycling at the other end. You've got a higher risk of contamination with other waste streams because the food being involved in those. Paper and card, it's less so. So we'll be aiming to maximise the amount of recycling available with paper and card.
Thank you.
Yeah, I may have missed it earlier, but I think, I don't know if it was John or David asked about the kind of contaminant rates and things that you're getting at the moment. Is there a percentage or a rough idea you can give us about the extent to which current tenemental property, I suppose, is contaminated?
Thanks, Chair. I don't have the data to hand, but I can certainly provide that.
I think that may be of some interest to people, perhaps. Yeah, thank you. Okay, sorry, Councillor McLachlan.
Thanks, Chair. A general question, really. There's quite a lot of good questions been asked, but a general question or suggestion that maybe we should have a members' awareness session, because quite often I'm quite puzzled as to what happens when you see contaminated bins. Does it go to landfill? David made a good point earlier. What happens to where somebody's bin is contaminated and it can't go into the grey or the blue or whatever? Where does it go? How much waste goes to landfill that could potentially have been recycled? Things like that. Because I think everybody, just generally the public are becoming more interested. I certainly am. And I would just like to know a little bit more. Because you see things, you see programmes on the TV, for example, where plastic bottles have been collected here and they're lying in a dump somewhere in China, So what's happening to the recyclers? Is it actually getting recycled? How much of it that's not recycled goes to a landfill? Where does it go? So it's quite a kind of open thing that I don't think a lot of people know a lot about, and I would certainly like to know more about it, if that would be okay with you, Chair.
Yeah, thanks, David. Funny enough, I was thinking of that myself. It seemed to me there's a lot of interest in this subject across the area. It affects lots of local issues as well. David, could we do something in that connection, do you think? Or Kevin, whichever.
Okay, thanks so much, Chair. Kevin and I were just talking as you were speaking there, Councillor McLachlan. We think that's a really good idea. So we think we'll start to develop something either in a seminar or some form of briefing to elected members, just again, just to get behind some of these issues, and we'll let you and make sure you're fully informed on it, if that's useful.
I think that would be valuable as well, because I think members are dealing with the front end of some of this as well. So I think it's actually quite important that our input is given, so the officials know what the story is from our end too. Thank you very much for that one. No further questions on that one. Can I therefore move the report?
I'll second it.
Which is, thank you very much, which was at the end of the day only really about the establishment figures. Thank you very much for that one. And can we move on to item 9, which is the Community Benefit Funds, the Renewable Energy Fund grant applications, pages 59 to 64. Can I invite David Booth to speak to that?
Thank you very much, Chair. So this report, the purpose of the report is to consider grant applications for the Renewable Energy Fund from Sandford and Upper Avondale Community Council. and also from Sandford Village Hall Association. In terms of background, the Council has collected and administered community benefit funding through planning and economic development services since 2004, with grant awards above £20,000 requiring approval from the committee, hence this report. So there are two grants, taking them each in turn. The first grant is application number 774, and that is for Sandford and Upper Avondale Community Council for a project value of £101,777. And the proposed grant award is £61,066, which is an intervention rate of 60%. This particular grant would allow the organisation to develop an inclusive play park, including inclusive play equipment, accessible gate and access pathway within Gilmerton Park area and facilities within for all ages and abilities. The plans for the park also include picnic areas, tree planting and improved pathways, thereby ensuring it is an attractive year-round location for local children, families and other residents to use. The second application is a grant number 748, and that's for Sandford Village Hall Association. It's a project value of £88,867 and a proposed grant award of £49,167, which is an intervention rate of 55%. And that would allow Sandford Village Hall Association to refurbish the hall and comply with disability access. Following a survey which identified areas of the hall which were non-compliant with disability access legislation, accessible toilet dimensions, internal door widths, gravel parking area and access and egress paths. The project would require the capital funding to cover the project management fees and coordinate the construction and refurbishment works, which would include a disabled access toilet replacement, internal doors, and standards to comply with wheelchair access, replacement windows, internal decor, and a gravel and parking area with wheelchair access and egress. So returning to the recommendations, it's recommended the committee approve the grant is awarded to Sandford and Upper Avondale Community Council of up to £61,066 from the Renewable Energy Fund, and a grant is awarded to Sandford Village Hall Association of up to £49,167 from the Renewable Energy Fund. Thank you.
Thanks very much, David. Any questions on that one? Can I move the report?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. I'll move on to item 10, which is Blantyre Town Centre Strategy, pages 65 to 88. And can I ask Ian Ross to speak to that report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Excuse me. The purpose of this report is to update the committee on the outcome of the consultation process on the Blantyre Town Centre Strategy and Action Plan. The consultative draft was brought to the committee in December 2021, and the consultation has happened thereafter. At section 3, we give some background on the the challenges around town centres more generally, but also the programme of strategies and action plans that have been prepared across Hamilton, Cambuslang and Larkhall to date, with Blantyre being the most recent one in that suite of strategies. At section 3.6, we note the partnership approach to developing the strategies and the support that the community generally gives to the town centre and aims to see moving forward. In section 4, we set out the process and the outcome of the consultation process and the updates to the strategy document itself, which is Appendix 1 of your report, and moving forward to section 4.5 and 4.6 around the delivery of the strategy with partners, should members be minded to approve the strategy. Sections 5 through 9 set out the employee, financial and climate change, etc. sections, none of which are out with the norm, and I would take members back to section 2 of the report that asks that the outcome of the consultation be noted, that the amendments of the strategy as detailed, the report says in section 5, that's a slight error, it should read section 4.3 of the report, but the outcomes of the consultation be noted, and that through the Director we have authority to implement the strategy with the local partners. With that, I'll hand back to yourself, Chair.
Thanks very much, Ian, on that one. Again, a very interesting report. I mean, there's, it was interesting, I think, to note some of the actual strong points in Blantyre, not least the large percentage of independently owned retail businesses in the area, which I think is quite an interesting and strong strength. Any questions, please? Maureen Chalmers, Councillor Chalmers.
Thanks, Chair, and thank you for acknowledging how fantastic Blantyre is there. Can I just, first of all, welcome the report and thank the officers, because this report has been a labour of love and lots of tenacity all round. We started with our first meeting in March 2020. So there's been lots of stops and starts out with our control. So thank you to Ian and the team for all the work they've done, and of course our community and local businesses who have participated fully. Can I just ask though, this is our 4th plan. This was a bit of work we put in place about 4 years ago. Can I ask if there's been any learning from we're our 4th, and particularly 3 where community's been fully involved? Can I ask if there's been any learning from that, and if there's any plans to maybe put in writing or prepare something that maybe reflects that for our benefit, that we can think how we move forward on the town centre strategy work? Thank you.
Thanks very much, Maureen. Ian?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Chalmers. Each of the plans develops on the previous one, so hopefully we've been improving the process as we've gone forward, and as you say, the engagement with communities in each occasion has been increasing and hopefully stronger. One of the other areas of work that our team are involved with is an overall town centre visioning study for the future of towns across South Lanarkshire, and that will capture the way in which we approach these moving forward over the next roughly 10-year period. That will then feed into the refresh of the action plans, and it's intended that on roughly a 5-yearly programme we would update and refresh each of the town centre strategies and action plans. So I don't have a single document that perhaps you're envisaging. It's maybe something we'll take up with David and just see how we capture that thought process and learning. But certainly through each iteration of the plans and that overall strategy, we're hoping that's adding value to the process in each occasion.
Thanks, Ian. And I think, Chair, thank you. I think it would just be helpful, not just to ourselves, but also for the community planning partners, because, you know, it has been the community work that I think it's good to share it because it helps everyone. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Any other questions on that? I mean, I had 2 thoughts as we were going forward there. One is, have the other local members received a copy of the plan who aren't on this committee? Because if they haven't, perhaps that could be done. And I suppose, does it go to the Community Council and others? I take it as well, appropriate people like that. And secondly, in terms of monitoring the plan going forward, does the Area Committee have a role in this? Will it go to the Area Committee in some shape or other on a routine basis to say, well, how is the plan going forward? Or we're having the plan, how far are we going with the implementation of it? What are the obstacles? What are the successes, etc., as it develops? David?
Thank you very much, Chair. In terms of the Area Committee, we can look at putting progress reports up to on a regular basis to the committees. We'll make sure now on the presumption that the committee is approving this plan, we'll make it available to partners and to relevant partners, to other elected members, and also we would hope to get some communication out on it in terms of the local community. Thanks.
That's great, thank you very much. I think it's personally very important that the area committees are involved in these things and have some element of oversight as the thing goes forward. Moving on to, sorry, can I first of all approve the improvement of the report? Thank you very much. Moving on to item 11. which is the Community and Enterprise Resource Plan Quarter 4, the Progress Report. This is the Monitoring Report 2021-22, pages 89 to 120. And can I ask Gillian Simpson to speak, please?
Thanks, Chair. So this report presents the Quarter 4 progress against last year's resource plan, so the resource plan for 2021-22. It follows the standard corporate reporting template, and the performance outcomes, key achievements and areas for improvement are for noting for this committee today. I should stress that the progress updates within the report are as at year end, and so some of the actions may have moved further as we've progressed through the current financial year, so just to bear that in mind obviously when going through the updates. Section 3 provides some background to the Council's performance management arrangements, and Section 4 refers us to the detailed appendix report, and the main detail of the report is included within Section 5. The table at Section 5.2 shows the overall summary of progress as at the year end, with over 71% of the actions and measures being either completed or having met the required expectations. 10% showed a minor shortfall against target, and they're the amber measures, and one measure was rated as red. 6 measures were categorised as to be reported later, and these are predominantly relate to the local government benchmarking framework, where the 21-22 data is not yet published. It will be available in early 2023. 2 measures were included for contextual purposes only due to the impact of COVID making it difficult to set meaningful targets. Section 5.3 identifies some of the key achievements for the resource during 21-22, and Section 5.4 highlights the one area that was classified as red. This relates to the percentage of household waste that was recycled during calendar year 2021, with higher residual waste tonnage due to home working being one of the contributing factors to the shortfall against this target. This measure will continue to be monitored in the 22-23 resource plan, and we've already heard from Kevin today about some of the projects that have been progressed to try and improve on our performance in this area. That closes off the resource plan for 21-22, and the report, as I said, is for noting today.
Thanks very much. Can I ask for any questions? Councillor Watson, David.
Thanks, Chair. Page 114 refers to Stuartfield Way project, and it's saying there's a potential members awareness session in spring 2022. Can I ask when that's going to happen, and for an update on Stuartfield Way? Also, page 115 refers to what was to be the Julian East Kilbride railway line, but unfortunately dropped by the government. But we've still got the park and ride facility, and maybe when can we get an update on that? It says ongoing details are ongoing, but maybe when can we expect some sort of updating where that project is at the moment? Thanks.
A fair bit of work, I think, done on that. David, can you respond on that?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, Councillor Watson. So there's a fair amount of work going on in the background at the moment in terms of Stuartfield Way, and also in terms of the park and ride. Officers are at a stage, I think, whereby we should be in a position to be able to update and brief councillors shortly on that. So I'll take that action away and speak to the Chief Executive who's involved in this as well, and we'll work out a timescale for that and come back, Councillor.
Okay.
I'll do that for both of those.
Oh, as well, okay. Can I ask one small point, if I may, on page 91, going back to the recycling thing? Just we talk about the percentage of household waste that's recycled. Can I be clear? Are we talking there about the amount of waste that is actually recycled at the end of the day, as opposed to the actual amount of waste that is supposed to be recycled at the earlier point? What are we talking about? What actually gets recycled, I assume, are we? Kevin?
Thanks, Chair. Yes, it's the end point.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, can I move the report, item 11?
I'll second it.
And move on to item 12, which is the new Connect report. And that's the resource plan 2022-23, pages 121 to 140. And in this instance, again, I can ask Gillian Simpson to speak to that. Thanks, Gillian.
Thanks, Chair. So yes, this report presents the 22-23 resource plan for community and enterprise resources, which has already been approved at the Executive Committee on the 24th of August, alongside the other resource plans for this year, and is being presented today for noting. Again, the report follows the standard corporate reporting template, with the resource plan document attached separately as Appendix 1. The structure of the resource plan remains similar to that from the previous year and includes the key areas of focus for the year ahead, the resource outcomes for 22-23, a selection of measures and actions, and some context about how the plan will be resourced. There has been a slight reduction in the number of measures this year as the resource continues to review and refine the resource plan in line with the corporate guidance that is set, and that includes ensuring that the actions in the resource plan are high level and strategic in nature, that smarter actions ensure that the progress updates are meaningful for elected members and the public, and to try and reduce duplicate reporting, for example by removing some of the LGBF measures that are already reported elsewhere in a more timely manner. As noted within section 3.5, the resource plan is complemented by individual service plans, and there are 4 detailed service plans within community and enterprise resources. These contain a wide range of more service and operational measures and actions to be progressed and monitored during the current financial year, and these link more closely to the key work objectives of the individual officers. There are, of course, also a wide range of other strategies and plans that the resource is responsible for, and these also have their own detailed action plans that are being monitored and reported at various levels within the Council. So, like we've just heard in the previous report, and as noted in section 4.3, the committee will receive a mid-year progress against the resource plan at Q2 and a year-end progress report at Q4. And key highlights from operational service plans, other plans and strategies and other areas of business will also be included in the quarterly reports to committee for noting. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any questions on that report? It's obviously the new plan, as it were. No questions? Can I move the report?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 13. That's the Community Enterprise Resources notification of contracts awarded from 1st October 2021 to 31st March 2022, pages 141 to 8. David, can I ask you, David Booth, to speak on that one, please?
Thank you very much, Chair. The purpose of this report is to provide notification in line with standing orders of all contracts awarded by Community Enterprise Resources during the period of 1st of October 2021 to the 31st of March 2022. In terms of background, it's a requirement of the standing orders and contracts for all tenders above £50,000 to be reported retrospectively to the relevant committee for noting, and a full list of contracts awarded for the period of 1st of October 2021 to the 31st of March 2022 that fall within that category is provided in Appendix 1. And the recommendation is that the committee is asked to approve the details of these contract awards be noted. Thank you.
The report's really for noting. I don't think... Sorry, David Watson.
Just a comment, Chair, thanks. And I think we've touched on this before. Do we monitor and where we're dealing with maybe local contractors and local companies and view of our spend and maybe the type of work that's done? And it'd be interesting maybe if that's possible in the first place to do that and get feedback. And I know there's procurement laws and all the rest of it that you've got to go through, but we should really be trying to, and I know we have in the past encouraged local companies to be bidding for this kind of work. Okay, thanks.
There's quite a lot of work done on procurement, and obviously things, it's been an objective for quite a long time, hasn't it? David Booth?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Watson. So currently the council has a central procurement team, and they work closely with each of the resources, and also through organisations like the Supplier Development Programme, where we try and encourage more local organisations to be in a position to take on council contracts and try and encourage it. Councillor Watson, you're right to point out there are also statutory procurement rules that we need to work within in terms of frameworks, in terms of across Scotland. So work on that continues, and I'm aware that the council's procurement team and is regularly trying to increase the capacity and the number of local contracts. I don't, in terms of within this report here, have any kind of data on that, but I can assure you that it is something that features heavily in terms of our procurement approach.
Okay, and Councillor Faulkner.
Thanks, Chair. It's just information on page 145, third through the bottom. Apostolic Architects, 94,000 for a community hub at Hamilton New Cross. What is that?
That's the third item from the bottom, is it? The community hub at New Cross Centre. Ian?
Councillor, so yeah, if you look further up, you'll see that the Maxi construction works, I think it's at the top of page 145, that's the actual physical works. The hypostyle were the architects who did the design for that, so they were procured separately. So that design relates to the works that you'll see ongoing at the moment. Pardon? Oh, sorry, apologies. No, apologies, I misunderstood your question. We're refurbishing a couple of the units within the New Cross Centre, which will act as a new facility for a number of organisations, but I think within the report that we've said that Citizens Advice are keen to occupy. We're working with NHS colleagues, and we had spoken to colleagues in Vaslan, albeit that it looks as if they're less likely to go in now.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we note the report?
I'll second it.
Thanks very much. No urgent business, item 14. That concludes the meeting. Thanks very much for your attendance and have a good day.